Welcome back and congrats for making it to the third part of the three-part series, all about how you regulate your launch, regulating your mindset, regulating your nervous system, regulating the actions that you're taking, regulating your entire approach to your launch so that you can create more ease for yourself and less of that scattered energy. If you have not gotten a chance to go and listen to the first two episodes, I am going to encourage you to stop listening to this one, go listen to those two, and then come back. Also, I have created what was initially a guide, and in week 2, it actually got changed into being a mini course because it has videos and audio, like so much good stuff, and it's completely for free. So if you have not gotten a chance, if you have not gotten access to that yet, go check out the link in the show notes and get access because it's really, really good. So today, we are going to be continuing the conversation and diving into execution. The first part, we talked about mindset. So I just want to refresh you a little bit. We talked about mindset. We talked about really normalizing your goal in your nervous system, preparing your body for what is to come, and creating practices in your day that really are curating your environment so that you not only have the vision of what is possible, but you're really creating the space and you're curating your environment so that you can feel really solid about what it is that you're doing and how you can step into being the savvy founder of your business. And then in part 2, we talked all about organization, which was really a way of mapping out your unique process for your launch, getting into the nitty-gritty, the specific actions that you need to take, and working backwards from your goal in order to get there. Now that you've gotten that, you've got the specific actions, you have the mindset to set you up for success as you go through this. Now it's time to get into action and execution. And this is the most amazing part because this is where we get to show up. We get to actually create the vision that we had set out. We get to take something from that idea phase to actual reality, and we get to invite other people in. And this is where impact is made. This is where lives get to be changed. This is where transformation gets to happen. And I just love this part. So I'm going to break this down in a couple different areas, but the first thing I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I structure my day today. So I have a newborn, and currently my life does not look at all how it used to. And the reason I'm using myself as a story is because I think having a newborn is quite an extreme change in terms of your time. And so I know that if it's possible when you have extreme limited time, such as having a newborn or whatever else is going on in your life, because we all have things that are keeping us really busy, then it's doable. And if it's doable for one of us, it's doable for all of us. It's just about structuring it well. So I want to approach execution from first how I think about structuring my day. And the reason that I'm really happy that I'm recording this now and not a year ago is a year ago, it was just me and me. So I had a lot more time versus what I do now having a newborn. And so it's really forced me to think about how I structure my day. How do I manage my time so that I can make sure that I'm getting done the things that I need to be done, but also recognizing that my main priority is my family and being present for my baby. And yes, I still want to grow my business as well. And so there's this balance that has to happen that is very different than what it was before. So in my business, I use non-negotiables as a way to help me facilitate action in a way that's sustainable. In the last episode, I had mentioned that when you get down to the specific actions of what's required to make your launch happen, it's important to have it be actions that you can get done in less than 15 minutes. And at the time, it may have sounded really random, but it's not random at all. The reason for making your actions take less than 15 minutes is because I know that no matter how busy, how crazy it is, you can find 15 minutes of time to squeeze in something. The problem I think that happens a lot is when we leave our tasks very chunked up, where this is going to take 30 minutes, this is going to take an hour. That amount of time can be challenging to carve out of your day, especially when you have a lot of other things that you're juggling. So if you did not get to the point of getting it below 15 minutes, go do that. Every single non-negotiable I have is less than 15 minutes. I like to structure my day where I only have 3, max 5 non-negotiables in a day. And really, I think of it as 3 is the minimum. It's going to propel me forward where I'm still getting closer to my goal. 5 is, oh my gosh, you've done incredible. You are absolutely kicking butt here. And then you know that it's a time where, okay, you can unplug now. Because I also had an issue before of not really feeling comfortable in unplugging from my business. And I think it came from this idea of we always have this future in mind, our vision in mind, and there's so much that we can do to expedite our way of getting there. But it's important for you to find what works for you. So if this works for you, amazing, take it. If it doesn't, then leave it and wait for the next one, and maybe that one will resonate. But in my experience, having 15 minutes or less, having those non-negotiables have set me up for success in a way that just a simple to-do list does not. Now, what's different about a non-negotiable than just having a to-do list? For one, it's coming from specific visions that you have. So this whole 3-part series is about launching, but even in everyday business, I have non-negotiables. And the way that I've actually built my non-negotiables over time is I don't implement a ton of them at the same time. So I will start easing myself into doing more action, and month by month, I will layer it in, giving myself space to get used to taking that action and for that to be my norm, with the goal in mind that at the end of this is just what I do. It's no different than the way that I think about showering or brushing my teeth. It does not matter how much time I have or don't have. It's something that's going to happen regardless. And that's what a non-negotiable is. And this is why having that process mapped out is so important, because then this will let you know what's the most important thing for you to get done so that you can reach your goal in a way that is regulated, without you feeling like you're going absolutely crazy and you're running from task to task and fire to fire. So I have the non-negotiables. Now, when it comes to the actual organization part of how I sit down at my desk and know exactly what it is that I'm going to do. So that list that you had last episode at the end, where you had all of your specific actions, I actually create in my mind a visual Gantt chart. If you're not familiar with Gantt charts, a Gantt chart is a way to visually see how a project is progressing. And so if you've ever seen the horizontal bars and it kind of shows you, okay, this is required before this one should happen, that type of thing, I create that. And if you got the guide, which is now a mini course, you will see an example of what that can look like, so that you can just have this in your head. And this will give you the order in which you should take certain actions, making sure you're always prepared for the next action ahead of time. This is one of those things that I think is easier to show you than to like verbally tell you. So just go ahead and access the mini course for that, and it'll make a lot more sense. If you have found yourself sitting at your desk, flipping between tabs back and forth, burning time, then this is a good sign that what you're missing is the non-negotiables in your business. And what it does is, for me, it creates a boundary for myself. It creates the minimum boundary, but it also creates my upper boundary. Like I said, if I have 5 things, then I know after that I can take a break. If I happen to have more free time later and I just want to do something, then I can come back to it. But this is literally how you can regulate your launch. This is what takes it from this mad, crazy dash and you're just trying to like throw the pieces together and make sure they stick, to you actually feel like you have space. And when you have space, the way that you show up is so much different. Also, in terms of executing, I like to lump certain tasks together because of how our brain works. So if you find that the list that you have certain tasks that are, say, creative tasks, and then you have other tasks that require you scripting or writing out captions or writing content, or you have things that you need to film, I like to do like tasks with like tasks. The reason being is that when we switch from one task to another, if they fall into a different group, you are actually creating an inefficiency every single time you switch. So I see this a lot, especially when it comes to content, where someone will sit down and they'll say, okay, I'm going to film it. I'm going to write the caption, make sure I like my creative, edit it at the same time. But each one of those things, the writing, the creative, the editing, those are very different parts of your mind. So if you can, I recommend trying to structure your days so that you can kind of batch like tasks with like tasks. And when you do this, it starts to be easier for you to go from one thing to another because you're still using the same part of your mind in order to do it. And in terms of the actual system I use to do this, so this is like the how I work part, but then the what I use to help me work and how do I really track what it is that I'm doing and make sure I'm consistently moving forward is I leverage a project management software. There's a lot of them that are out there. So really just pick the one that you like the best. You can use Notion is one, ClickUp is another, there's Asana, there's lots of them. And I actually put them in there and I set the due dates based on all the actions from before, making sure that it allows me the space to meet my ultimate timeline of the launch. In the mini course, I'll go into this a little bit more of how specifically I like to approach this. But for this purpose, just know that it is helpful if you can have a system to support you in this where you're not going back to this list that looks really overwhelming with all these specific tasks. And it takes that overwhelm away, where the only time that you're likely to feel overwhelmed if you do this correctly is when you're writing out all of the tasks. But then after that, each task gets sorted into where it needs to go. And it's only going to show up when it's time for you to do it. And remember, it's under 15 minutes. So it should be easy peasy at that point. And yeah, this is how I show up. This is something that's helped me implementing this, the daily non-negotiables, having myself supported with my back-end system has literally been game changing in terms of being able to go from a big idea down to specific tasks every day. And even on days when it feels like time is super crunched, I have found that by implementing it this specific way, approaching the mindset, getting really clear on the process, and then having a plan for execution has made it one, super simple. As you've seen, this process is super simple, but so effective, and you can get it done. And you will feel like time is going to go by and you're just going to think to yourself, holy cow, I really did that. I was actually able to do that. And I didn't feel like I was going crazy every step of the way. Every single time, I'll tell you this, every single time that I noticed that I was starting to get stressed, it was when I was not using this. It was when I skipped one of these 3 steps. And it's so crazy to me too, because there's this saying, and I have no idea who it came from, but successful business is a boring business because you're really just there's a process and you're following it. And most of the things we do are more repetitive than not. And that's literally this format, this process of regulating your launch this way is like the best example of it. It's so simple that I think a lot of times people will write it off and they go back to their scattered founder ways. But if you implement this, you can literally create so much. And you can do it in a way that doesn't make you feel like you are absolutely going crazy. So with that, I'm so excited because this wraps up our 3-part series. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I would love to know your takeaway. If you have a launch that's coming up that you're going to use this on, I would love to know about it. So feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. And if you have not gotten that mini course, seriously, what are you doing? Go get it because it's literally incredible. And it was something that I originally just wanted to be a guide, but it's gotten to be so much more than that. And I'm glad that you get to have it as a resource. So with that, I will see you next week right here on the Savvy Founder Podcast.